let me give you a little bit of an insight into how we do things at AutoEV, how we review cars. So when a new car comes out, I normally email the press department of a manufacturer and say, oh, could we have the blah, blah, blah to film a road test review on? And they send a car down to me, usually for a week. It usually arrives for a week, sometimes a little bit more, sometimes a little bit less. And that gives me time to kind of use the car, get to know it quite well, use it as a kind of daily car for a week and so, and I go out for a drive in it and I gather my thoughts and I write them down and I come back and I write down my review, and then of course I go and film it. Sometimes we also get invited to press launches. Now of course they're a bit different because you've got a kind of day with a car, and the days, whilst you can evaluate a car in a day, you don't really get to know it particularly well, not like if you have it for a week, but it's usually enough to tell whether or not it's a good car and whether or not we would recommend it to you as the buying public, whether or not you should maybe consider it. But again, you don't really get to know a car very well within a couple of days or even a week. What you really need to do is live with the car, which is why that's exactly what I've decided to do. Because there's very kind people at Renault UK who said to me, Brian, why don't you have a Renault Megane E-Tech? It was your car of the year last year after all, and live with it on a daily basis over the next few months and see what you really think of the car. So without further ado, welcome to my new long-term test car, welcome to the Renault Megane E-Tech, and as always, welcome to AutoEV. Now, before we crack on with this week's episode and give you my thoughts on my new long-term test car, the Renault Megane E-Tech, is of course that time where I ask you to make sure that you are subscribed to the AutoEV channel. Then once you've done that, make sure you've pressed the little bell button that's down below, because then that way you'll be notified when our next video is uploaded and is gone live. Once you've watched it, then obviously make sure that you give it a thumbs up if you enjoy it. And don't forget, this one's really important, especially for this one. Let me know your thoughts on the car, especially if you own a Renault Megane E-Tech, because this is what we want to do. We want to run these cars. We want to get a real community going, and you let me know what your thoughts are on your car. Or are you thinking of the car and maybe you want to have some questions answered? Pop them down in the comment section down below, and of course we'll do our very, very best to answer them. Okay, so why are we running it? Well, as I said to you, it was in the AutoEV Awards in 2022. It took 3 of the gongs. It was not only our best compact family car, not only was it the viewer's choice, you guys voted it the best car of the year, but we also gave it our car of the year overall in 2022. But as I say, that was based on a road test review. And, I used the car for the sort of a little while and things, and it gave me a sort of formed an opinion on the vehicle, and I do really, really like the car. But it's not the same as living with it on a daily basis. So I've actually sold my own car, and this is what I'm running now as my daily sort of car, as the second car in our family that sits next to our Jeep. We're running this as our second car, and so I'm taking my daughter to see her friends in it, all her clubs that she goes to, we go that. My wife's been using it, the guys in the office have used it as well, and as you can see, I'm in Scotland with it because I've decided to bring it up here to really give it a proper test. Now, oddly enough, I've had the car now for about 4 weeks. I got it at the beginning of November. This is the beginning of December, and I've done about 1,500 miles in it so far. And within that 1,500 miles, there's been 3 really long trips, including coming up here yesterday to Scotland. I've also been to Cockermouth in it and back to Surrey to test drive the BYD Seal, and I've also been out to the Cotswolds on a day with Vauxhall to test their new cars, and I used this car obviously as a daily transport for that as well. So I'm starting to form a really good opinion of the car. Now, this isn't a road test review. We've done the road test review of the Megane E-Tech. This is the first of a few episodes where you're going to see the Renault featured in AutoEV, and I just wanted to sort of give you my initial thoughts on the car, what I'm really liking about it, what I'm not really liking about it, and there are a couple of things that I'm not so keen on about it, which we'll get onto in a minute. So as I say, it's not really a road test review, but we will cover a few things that we did in the road test as well. So as I say, if you've got a Megane E-Tech, stick around and make sure that you put your thoughts and comments down in the section down below, because as I say, we want to know what your thoughts are on your car. But as I say, also, if you're thinking of buying one, then if you've any questions, let me know, and then hopefully in the next episode, and then maybe the episode thereafter, we'll be able to answer your questions for you. But first of all, what car do I have? Well, this is the Megane E-Tech Techno Plus. It's the mid-range specification, and I think it's probably the best of the three, if you like. The range starts with the Equilibra model, the lead-in car, and then tops out with the iconic model now. The Techno Plus sits in the mid-Scotland spec, and the only option that I've gone for is the ceramic grey paint, metallic paint. Now, Renault sent me the spec sheet of the car, which was £39,500 base price plus the metallic paint, which took it to 40,400 and something. But then I configured the car on Renault's website and I get it to 37.5. So I don't know whether there's been a price realignment since Renault gave us the car, and obviously now when you can buy it. But if it's £37,500 for this car and the spec as it is, I think that's really good value for money. And it's sort of on an equivalent pricing terms with something like, say, the MG4 Trophy extended range car, and way less than the likes of the Volkswagen ID3 before options, and way less than the new Vauxhall Astra, which obviously you know we've road tested on the channel. So I think it's pretty good value for money, and it's got everything that I want on the car. In fairness, you get the really lovely 20-inch wheels, you get wireless Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, you get the wireless charging pad for your mobile, you get heated seats, you get heated steering wheel, you get enough sort of like driver assistance things where they're just useful and not that irritating to use or turn off, if you like. And as I say, the only option that you can really have on it is the metallic paint. There are a few other things you can sort of like tick boxes for, but they tend to be accessories. What am I missing? Well, not really an awful lot. I mean, I quite like a panoramic sunroof, but it's not the be all and end all, especially obviously when the weather's like this, but I like it to let a little extra light in the cabin. But otherwise, I'm pretty happy with the spec of this Techno Plus, so I do think this could be the pick of the range, and certainly in terms of value for money. Now, pretty much the car hasn't stood still in the 4 weeks I've got it. You can see I haven't even washed it. I mean, it came up here, it's absolutely filthy up here at the moment. In fact, this is the Kirk Loch behind me. I grew up in a house just over there, and it's absolutely frozen over. People used to come out and skate here in the winter time, so yeah. There you go. But yes, absolutely filthy. I haven't even had a chance to let the car get cold in the last 4 weeks. As I say, it's done London to the Lake District and back. It's been out to the Cotswolds and back. I've been using it, as I say, as a daily car. I've obviously come up to see the family before Christmas and bring all the kind of gifts up and things, and I'm going back with it in a couple of days' time. So as I say, it hasn't really stood still. What do I like about it? Right, well, the first thing I love about it is the styling. I've always have. I think the Megane E-Tech looks an absolutely incredible car in this class. The styling of it, you immediately think it's a little bit of a crossover, but it really isn't. It's a C-sector hatchback, and Renault have done a really neat styling trick with the car. In terms of the overall size of it, believe it or not, it's shorter than a Ford Focus, and it actually sits lower than a Renault Zoe. They're super mini. So it is a really compact kind of footprint that the car has, but they've maximised sort of like space in it by kind of pushing the wheels out to the far extremities of it. But I love the look of the car. I think it turns my head. I really like it. From these kind of really trick kind of headlights at the front to that real kind of bluff front end to the kind of squat, purposeful look. As I say, the 20-inch wheels I think are an absolute necessity on it because it just fills the arches. I really like this kind of ceramic grey paint, but as I say, it does show the dirt and the crap that I've had coming up the M6 yesterday through Cumbria, which when it was snowing, that was an interesting drive. But you get this nice kind of contrasting kind of black kind of plastic at the bottom that's kind of textured, and that with the contrasting roof kind of just draws your eyes in. The bodywork, it kind of shrinks it in a little bit. You get the concealed door handles obviously that kind of pop out when you need to use them, and the front doors and the rear handles are up in the pillars, which are kind of nicely integrated into that C pillar on the back, and then just a little kind of shallow rear window. Visibility is not bad, it's all right. Rear visibility is a little bit kind of narrow because you've got a really kind of shallow rear window, but otherwise, as I say, I really like the way the car looks. See, told you it was dirty, and that's why I advocate rear wipers. Look at the back of this, it's covered in crap, which is the bit of the downside, because obviously to open the boot you've got to press that little button and then you've got to get your fingers in there, so yeah, that's a bit thingy. Right, boot space, very practical, 400 litres. However, listen, I'm going to say this. if you are looking at a Megane, just take this into account. Whilst that is a huge amount of space and it's the biggest in its class, it's got quite a drop down, there's quite a load cell. So whilst I came up with my big duffel bag, my camera bag, my tripod, plus everyone's gifts in the back here yesterday, I didn't have to use the back seats. Just be aware that is quite a drop down onto that boot floor. So if you're carrying things like, I don't know, push chairs, prams, wheelchair users as well, just be careful. Make sure you go into your dealership and you measure the actual space that you have. It's a very square boot, don't get me wrong, but it drops down quite a bit. So it's not necessarily the length that way. Where it comes in, the volume comes from the actual sort of like depth of the boot. So just be aware of that. I take a tape measure and, as I say, and go and measure it all out. Right, there's a couple of nice neat things here. Obviously you get the kind of load hooks up on the side there. So I've got a couple of pictures that I'm taking back with me. And here, there is some storage for the cables. You get the the Mode 3 charging cable, Mode 2 charging cable for plugging it into sort of like, street curb things and such like, in wall boxes that are untethered. But you don't get the 3-pin granny charger as standard, so just be aware of that as well, because I don't have a wall box at home, oddly enough, so I'm having to go out and use public charging. I'll talk about charging in a little bit, to be honest with you. 60-40 split rear seat, and obviously the seats go down. But yeah, it's a good practical car. It's more than enough for my needs, in fairness. But as I say, it does tend to get, as you can see, a little bit dirty on the back. Now, rear accommodation's all right. In fairness, we haven't gone too far as a family in the car. It tends to have just been me and my daughter and my wife and I, whatever, using it, kind of just the two of us. We've done a couple of sort of like little kind of local family trips, which is enough for the three of us, plus our dog. The space in the back is okay. You're starting to get, that's my driving position, and I'm not a particularly tall man. Knee room's starting to get a little bit tight for a C-sector hatchback, especially one with such a big wheelbase as well as this. But they seem to have concentrated more on space in the front and boot space rather than kind of rear accommodation. It's okay. That's all I will say. Floor, however, just feels really raised up. Dedicated EV platform, so you get the flat floor across, so you could get 3 across. I've had a couple, my daughter and a friend in here as well. They haven't really complained, but bear in mind they're only like 9-10 years old, in fairness. So there's enough space for 2 kids in the back, no problem at all. There's no centre armrest, however. There's no centre armrest, which I do think is a little bit kind of handy. So Katie normally goes around with a water bottle. So she's nowhere to really put it other than kind of in the door bins. Door bins are good, but in fairness, though, they're lined with carpet, which is quite nice, so it saves things kind of rattling around. You got a couple of USB-C charging ports there, and of course you've got your usual kind of mat pockets on the backs of the front seats. But yeah, rear accommodation's all right. It will pass the muster as a kind of family car. But if you are carrying around adults a lot of the time, they're probably going to start to feel a little bit tight back here. And that's when maybe you can see why people now migrate to sort of like just slightly larger kind of crossover style of cars. But on the whole, it's all right. Oh, nice to get inside out the cold. Right, interior. Up front, this is a part I really do like. I love the interior of this car. Now, we don't get the big screen in the UK. I think this is a 9-inch screen. I think European cars get a much larger portrait style screen, and there was a bit of a fuss made about that when the car first came across here, because a lot of the first initial kind of YouTube videos of the car showed the big screen. Obviously we did a road test, we knew it was only getting the smaller one. Look, I'm okay with it. It would be nice to have a slightly bigger screen, but it has all the information. What I will say about it, however, is in terms of the way you can configure this, there isn't another car in the class I think you can configure as well as this, in fairness. So how I tend to have it set up, I've got my navigation across the front of me here in the driver display, and then I use this for all my media, CarPlay and stuff. It's wireless Apple CarPlay, and you get the wireless charging pad down below. So that's excellent, the way that kind of works. And it runs off a Google operating system, so the voice recognition is superb. It's the best in the business, sort of like Renault use it, Polestar use Google as well. And I think they really are phenomenally good. Other sort of like voice-operated systems that I've used on other cars, I don't think work quite as well. Certainly not when you've got a slightly stronger accent like me. So the long and short of it is I got on well with this. There's a good amount of physical buttons, for your heating and ventilation, which is there. There's bags of storage. There's absolutely tons of the storage. You've got sort of like a deep I mean, a really deep centre bit there. You've got a little tray in front there, which you can cover by sliding the armrest across it. Couple of cup holders down there. There's a massive big sort of like cubby bin down in there. And as I say, your door bins are lined with carpet. And then, of course, you get your glove box in there. So, you know, sort of like coffee flask, which I don't have at the moment, which I've left my coffee flask at my mum's house, and water bottle. The only thing you can adjust the gap, you know, you get with these two kind of things in here. My water bottle doesn't fit when you have it in its closest one, and when it's far apart, they're too far apart, so that doesn't quite fit in there, but it does fit in the door pocket quite well. So all is not lost. The squared off kind of Quartic steering wheel is good because it gives you a good view of the driver information display, which you can, as I say, you can configure the view quite a bit. So if you don't want the map up, you always want your kind of speed and your trip computer and your distance to go and stuff. You can have that, and you can change that then to be different actual dials. Plus the sort of like the distance cruise control there, or you can have it like I have it set up with the map there. There's some nice ambient lighting going around the car as well, which obviously you can change the colour of. The quality in terms of, you know, the materials is phenomenal. I love this material, this kind of tweedish kind of material on top of the dashboard. Then you've got this kind of Alcantara strip that runs around there into the doors, and then below that's a kind of soft touch kind of leatherette. There's a little bit of harder plastic down at the bottom, but I tell you what, it is solid as a rock. You know, I think it's way better quality in here than you get in, say, the Volkswagen ID3 and the Peugeot E308 and the new Vauxhall Astra. So I think Renault have knocked it out of the park, and I don't even want to discuss the MG4, which is good, but nowhere near the quality of this. This is kind of Skoda levels of quality, I think, in terms of that, and the materials that they use. One of the things I noted on the road test review was the kind of clutter of column stocks down here on the right hand side. There's 3 of them. So you get your transmission stock, I don't know if you can see that with the camera, the transmission stock there, then the wipers, then of course the Renault media control, which I really like actually. I'm getting kind of really used to it. You know, you've got a little scroll wheel behind it for your track selection and volume at the end, and then source and mode buttons there. I'm starting to get used to it. I still feel it would have been nicer maybe to put either the transmission stock maybe on that side, or have buttons rather than having 3 stalks all gathered around the right hand side. But you do get used to it. So certainly I am getting used to it, in fairness. Steering wheel itself is very, very good. As I say, it's that kind of Quartic kind of style. There are physical buttons on it. The cruise control is really very good, because one thing I find when I've got the active cruise control on, if you're coming up behind a car and you've got it kind of set at the sort of like, say, the lowest, when you move into the other lane to overtake on the motorway, some of them, what they do is they seem to pick the car up and apply the brakes, and then it's a bit odd, it's not as smooth. This is really smooth the way this car does it. I really do like the way Renault have got this set up. You can adjust the brake regen as well with the paddles behind the steering wheel, which if you're a regular viewer, you'll know that I love. Kia and Hyundai do that really well, and of course Renault do it here on this, and it works really well. There's this button here, multi-sense. Well, that's basically your driving modes, but it alters quite a lot. You know, so you've got comfort, eco, sport, and personal. I've been using sport, and you can see it's changing the kind of the ambient lighting as well. I don't know if you can pick that up, but when you go into, say, comfort, you know, it's kind of light blue, and then I think I've set it up for kind of yellow when it's in sport and all the rest of it. And that'll alter the throttle mapping and stuff like, and it'll also kind of the cabin ambience as well. So that's quite nice. I do play around with it a little bit, but I tend to just either have it in comfort or sport, in fairness. What else to talk about? Oh, the seats. The seats are excellent. They look really flat and kind of featureless, but having done, as I say, 3 pretty big drives in the car now, I'm finding the seats superb. They've got the right amount of support. They're really long in the squab, even for a little shorty like me. I do like a longer squab. The backrest has just got enough side lateral support, and then the side bolsters down by your thighs, again, they're not going to pinching you in. Now, I left home yesterday. I'm filming this on a Sunday. I left home Saturday morning, 7 o'clock in the morning from my house. Got to Dumfries. It's 360 something miles. 7-hour drive. Got to Dumfries about just before 3 o'clock, but 2:30 in the afternoon, and that's with some charging, which we'll talk about in a second. And yeah, got out fresh as a daisy. Really, really good. The seats are excellent, and the actual driving position is superb. This high centre console just gives you a nice place to rest your arm. The good sort of like armrest on the door does the same thing. And as I say, this steering wheel, actually, you think it's going to be really odd, that kind of shape, but it doesn't. It just falls to hand really nicely. So yeah, excellent driving position, brilliant comfort. You've got heated seats and heated steering wheel, but I also think that's standard on the Equilibra model, if my memory serves me correctly. But yeah, so I love the configuration of the dashboard. I love the comfort of the car. I love the build quality, and I love the storage. Yeah, there's not really a huge amount not to like in terms of the kind of driver environment. As I say, I know that's a smaller screen than European guys get, but in fairness, I got on really, really well with it. And the voice activation using the Google Assistant, absolutely the best out there. So yeah, top marks as far as I'm concerned. Best interior in its class for usability, comfort and design. Right, let's talk about the usability in terms of, you know, the car, in terms of its range and its charging capability, because this is one area that I feel that you're living with the Renault has started to prove it's not quite what Renault say it should do. So the WLTP on the car, the WLTP range, is 280 miles. It has a 60 kilowatt hour battery. And according to Renault, that should see you do 280 miles. The EV database, where we get a lot of our information from, suggests a real world range of somewhere between 200 to 230 miles is probably more realistic. I'm struggling to see 200 miles out of this car, which has been a real bit of an issue for me in some respects. Now, yesterday, as I say, I left home in Surrey and I charged it up to around about sort of like 80 something %, and I charged once again at Banbury, at the big Instavolt place at Banbury. Well, I had some breakfast. I then topped it up to sort of like around about sort of like 90% at Stafford North, and then went up to the Lake District where I charged at Porsche Centre South Lakes on their big chargers there. So 3 charges on the way up yesterday of round about sort of like half an hour each. So an hour and a half spent charging in a 7-hour journey. It's not the end of the world. It's probably 45 minutes longer than you would probably have a normal stop in a petrol or diesel engine car, in fairness. So yes, it will take a little bit longer than an EV. But I am a little bit disappointed that I'm not seeing at least 200 miles out of the car. Now, in fairness to Renault, I've got the car in the depths of winter. You know, it's November, December, January I'm running the car through. And at the moment, it's -1. Although, but it's been a little bit milder up until now. And still, on the last couple of long trips I've had, yeah, it's not been ideal. The other thing with the car I've noticed as well is yesterday, when I charged it up in Stafford North at the BP Pulse chargers there, I took it up to 90%, and it said that I had a range of 131 miles on the dashboard. Now, I know from there to the Porsche Centre South Lakes is exactly 100 miles. And I arrived, so in other words, I should have arrived at the Porsche Centre South Lakes with 30 odd miles left to go. The dash showed I arrived there with 60 odd miles left in the tank. So it kind of changes as you drive, which isn't brilliant if you're trying to plan a journey, in my opinion. Now, I know obviously the car will alter depending on road conditions, you know, so sitting on a motorway, and in fairness, you know, I've got the heater on, I've got the music on, and I'm driving at 70 miles an hour. And we know that motorways don't work particularly well for EVs. But what I will say is that I think Kia and Hyundai do that much, much better. In other words, what it says on the dashboard the car will do on those cars, it really does do. So I'm a little bit disappointed with the Renault in that sense. I'm not getting the range that I should get, and as I say, it's difficult to judge because the car seems to alter that range as you go on. So that's the one thing I'll say. Right, so charging. That's the other thing as well. So charging speeds are 130 kilowatts. But again, I'm struggling to see 100 kilowatts, and I've been using sort of like the big rapid chargers. So Ionity, Shell Recharge, they're 175 kilowatt chargers. The BP Pulse, 150 kilowatt chargers. And the Porsche Centre chargers, which I think are rated at 300 kilowatts. It's sort of like struggling to get up to 100 kilowatts. Now, I was talking with some other journalists on a recent launch, and of course we were saying, you never know whether it's the car or whether it's the charger that's not delivering. And I'm sure if you speak to the manufacturers of the cars, they'll say, well, it's the charger that's at fault. And vice versa, if you speak to the charger infrastructure people, they'll say, well, the car's at fault. So I'm not quite sure what's happening there. Anyway, One thing I will say, however, is it does have a heat pump as standard, and it also has 22 kilowatt AC charging on the vehicle as well. So the other night before I left, I was able to stick it on one of the street chargers in my local town, Chertsey, while I went and had dinner with some friends, and it took it from about 20-something% to over 80% in sort of like, a couple of hours whilst we were having dinner. So that was quite handy as well. But yeah, that's one of the areas that I'm struggling a little bit with it, where it's not quite performing as I feel it should do. Now, do you have a Megane? Are you feeling the same? Do you find that it's not delivering on the miles that it should do? Please let us know in the comment section. This is a really important thing with these long-term test cars that we have. We want to build up a good picture of what these cars are actually like for people to live with, so we can provide that information for maybe future owners. So let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Do you have a Megane E-Tech? Are you finding the same as me? It's not delivering on the range that you're supposed to be getting? Let me know. Alright, so as I say, this isn't another road test on the car, because we've done that. And as I say, it's going to be coming up soon, so I'm hoping you're going to be subscribed for that, in a triple test in January with two of its contemporaries. So make sure you are subscribed to get a verdict on that. Right, but I thought it was worthwhile just sort of like recapping what I like about the Megane in terms of it to drive. So there's a couple of things that really stand out on the car for me. The first thing is how Renault have just nailed the blend of comfort and sort of like performance and handling, and they've just got it right. The chassis of the car is superb. I think it's the best chassis in its class, and I still do. And as I say, now having done, 1,442 miles in the car so far, it still impresses me. So you've got a blend of, as I say, handling, grip levels, which is important today, which is 2 degrees at the moment. It's just come up, so there's a risk of black ice, so I need to be a bit careful. But you can feel what's going on. That's the nice thing about the car. The steering's got a really nice feel to it. Now, at the moment, I'm in a comfort driving mode, or as multi-sense mode, as Renault call it. And if you flick it across to sport, you get a much sharper throttle response, which was something I found you just didn't get with the new Astra. When you went from comfort to sport in the Astra, it just didn't make any odds. This it does. It's 220 brake horsepower from the single motor that you get in this. I think it's 0 to 60 time is around about sort of like 7 and a bit seconds, which is plenty fast enough for this style of car when it's not, a sort of like a performance-orientated car. But as well as that kind of nice blend, as I say, of handling, grip, you also get comfort from the suspension. Now bear in mind, as I say, this is on 20-inch wheels, and these aren't the best roads that I'm on, up here in Dumfries and Galloway. They're a bit pockmarked, and sort of like they've got a lot of sort of like worn out kind of undulations that go through them, and it just copes with it. It's just really, really nice to drive. As I say, yesterday, 7 hours in the car on the M6, and as we came through Cumbria, that's when the snow started to fall. The day I'm filming this, Cumbria has declared a sort of like a bit of a state of emergency. They're saying stay away. Good job I'm up already. But coming up the M6, when it dropped down to sort of like 2 lanes because you had a lot of snow and slush in the kind of outside lane as you come over Sharp Summit, the car just felt sure-footed. It just felt, planted on the road. It didn't feel like, sort of like it was skitting about the place. It stayed planted on the road, so I was really impressed with that. Good performance, as I say, nice steering. Steering's lovely. It's got really nice weight to the steering. I really like it. And as I said, the driving position is excellent. There's a superb driving position in the car, and as I say, the seats look a bit flat and a bit lifeless, but actually, the more time you spend in them, the more time you realise that they're really comfortable. It's a great driving position with this kind of high centre console. You get somewhere to kind of rest your arm on a longer drive, or if you're just pootling around, it's really nice. There's the touch-sensitive controls on the screen. There's only really a couple that I've been using, which is the heated seat and the heated steering wheel. And then obviously for the CarPlay and the media above it. The rest of the heating and ventilation of the physical rocker switches down below, so that's good. And as I say, you can use the Google Assistant to turn various functions on and off. And I think the Google Assistant works exceptionally well. I think it's the best of all the kind of voice-activated systems I've used in these cars. Another little thing is, I've just cleaned the windscreen. The washers are in the blades, the windscreen wipers, which is nice. They're not like washer nozzles that freeze on the bonnet. They're actually on the blades of the wipers, so that you actually get the water onto the screen as the wiper clears it. See, this is the type of thing we don't get to try out on road tests if it's a nice clear day. Living with the car for 3 months, I'm starting to find all these little foibles about the car that I'd never realised before, that I do like. I mentioned safety systems. There's quite a few on the car. So things like rear cross traffic alert, lane keep assist, that type of thing. There is a speed limit designation thing on the dashboard as well. What I like about this, I've been moaning a lot in the last few road tests about how intrusive some of these systems are, especially on the newer, dare I suggest, Chinese manufacturers like BYD, for instance. Great cars, but God, their systems are really intrusive. Hyundai and Kia are starting to put them on. They're really easy to disable on the Renault, and they're not intrusive at all. Most of them I've kind of kept on. The lane keep assist button is down over here. It's an actual physical button. If you don't want it on, you just press it. The radar guided cruise control is simplicity itself to use. You activate it by a button there, and then you set your speed by this rocker switch, and then you can adjust the distance by this central switch here. So again, it's in a matter of seconds, you've got it set how you want. And as I say, what I like about it is, as you're coming up to a car on the motorway that you're going to overtake, what I do find sometimes with these systems, if they're on, as you move into sort of like the next lane, it seems to then pick up a car and it almost brakes slightly. The Renault doesn't. The Renault actually just keeps the momentum of the speed and just glides past the car. It's the best one I've used. I think it's really good. And I'm including BMW, Mercedes and Audi and people like that in that. This is a really good system, the way this works. So I think, you know, Renault, how they've got it done really, really well with the car. There's not really an awful lot I don't like about the drive of it, I have to say. As I say, whilst I've had problems with the alarm system, whilst I've had, I'm not convinced about the range and the charging capabilities just yet. In terms of the way the car actually drives, there's nothing that I don't like about it. I haven't found anything yet that goes, oh, I don't like that, or I wish they had done that slightly differently. The driving position, the performance, the ease of use of these kind of driving modes, the physical buttons, where they're placed, the Google Assistant for the voice operation, it all works. And the comfort, as I say, is, exceptional. Refinement is really good as well. I'm on a really harsh surface at the moment, but as I say, even with the 20-inch wheels, the car is refined. It drives well. It's a good car, this. I still, a month in, 1,500 miles nearly in, and I'm still loving it as much as I did when I first drove the car back in 2022. I think it's a really, really good car. Now, in terms of faults, what have I discovered? Right, well, there is one that keeps rearing its head, and it's not just happened to me. It happened. Rod and Charlie had this car for a week between them before I got it, and they said the same. The alarm goes off randomly, so you walk away from it, it locks itself, or you can lock it with your little kind of Renault key card that we've got here. But then when you walk away, about 30 seconds later, the alarm will go off. Now, again, I've heard from owners who have experienced the same thing. I'm led to believe that the alarms are fitted in the UK after Renault bring the cars, Renault UK bring them in, and it is a bit of a known fault. So it's quite irritating, as I say. You park up, you leave it outside your house, you walk in the house, next thing you know, the alarm's going off, which is not great if you've kind of come home late from work one night, or you're about to sort of leave in the morning, you've kind of packed all the stuff like I had done yesterday morning, at 6:30 in the morning, and then you walk away from the car and the alarm goes off. Imagine how the neighbours feel about that. So again, if you've got a Megane and you're experiencing the same thing, can you let me know? Have you spoken to your dealer about it? Is there a fix for it? Let me know so that I can talk to Renault about it. Other than that, the only other thing that I've had is occasionally the CarPlay doesn't quite connect up first time. You've got to kind of stop, switch car off, switch it on again. So I've had that a couple of times as well. Otherwise, so far, fingers crossed, it's been pretty good and reliable. So that's pretty much it for this episode of AutoEV. As I say, it's not really a road test review because we've done one on the car, but it was to introduce you to the car and let you know what we're going to be doing with it and what we've done so far with it. Now, I keep saying this through this video. Do you have one of these? If you do, can you let me know what your thoughts are on the car? What do you like about it? What don't you like about it? What made you buy it? Did you try the others first? You know, the ID3, the Cupra Born, the MG4 before you signed on the dotted line for the Renault? Did you try the Renault then buy something else? Let me know why. What do you like about it? What don't you like about it? Are you having the same problems with the alarm that I am? The range situation, do you find the same with your car? Is it just me? Am I doing something wrong? Let me know in the comment section down below. Now, what else are we going to be doing with the car? Well, as I say, pretty much it's just going to be my everyday car. So at some point, Liz is going to be driving, my wife's going to be driving the car as well. She has driven it a couple of times so far, but I want to get her thoughts on it. Charlie's also going to be driving the car soon. He's going to be using it as a family car coming up to Christmas, and I want to get his thoughts on it, what he thinks about it, what he likes and what he doesn't like. And then in January, it's going to be in a triple test with another 2 of its contemporaries. You know, another 2 C-sector all-electric family hatchbacks. We want to find out whether or not we think this is still the king of that class, or whether or not 2 of the new ones that have come in are going to be better than it. So make sure that you are subscribed so you can see the results of that. As for me, it's kind of cold. I want to go and get a cup of coffee now. So I'm going to head into Dumfries, meet up with my son and get a cup of coffee inside me. Thank you for watching this episode of AutoEV. As always, as I say, make sure that you are subscribed to the channel. And then once you've done that, press the little bell button down below so you get notified when the next video is uploaded and has gone live. If you have enjoyed the video, as I say, make sure you do give it a thumbs up. And as I say, please don't forget, leave me your comments down below. Let me know your thoughts on the cars that we feature, such as, obviously, my new Renault Megane E-Tech long-termer, and of course, on the channel as a whole. And now remember, we're across all social media networks as well, so Facebook, X, LinkedIn, TikTok, Instagram, so give us a follow there because that helps the channel too. And if this is maybe the first time you visited AutoEV and you were wondering what we're all about, stay on the YouTube channel because there's plenty of videos there, because there's not just road test reviews, there's not just other long-term test reviews on cars we've had before, but there's also van reviews, twin tests, used car buying advice, and some motorbike reviews as well. So stick around and enjoy. All that remains for me to say is thank you once again for watching. Thank you for continuing to support us. I'll see you again soon.